Our first story is Vicarious Visions has been merged into Blizzard Entertainment. So there's been a lot of activity at Activision Blizzard, and essentially I think it's really a passing of the torch fully to Activision itself, where they're really starting to dismantle Blizzard internally and merge parts of its studios. So Vicarious Visions, founded back in 1990, acquired by Activision about 15, 16 years ago in 2005. They've predominantly always worked on a lot of ports and a lot of crazy port work and a lot of cool port work on the Game Boy Advance, DS, and Xbox. So they're often a studio that people go to actually port games and when I say port, it's often kind of translate the game to what makes sense for the system. Most notably for things like Tony Hawk. Recently,
I was just say that Tony Hawk 2 Game Boy Advance, that pretty much that put them on the map. They'd been around for a while at that point, but that is where everyone stood up and go, wait, they were able to do this? And I think that really increased their stock in the industry.
Yeah, back in those days, yeah. And that's regarded as one of the best Game Boy Advance games that you can get. And recently, they've actually done a lot of great work as well, where they've revitalized Crash Bandicoot with the Insane trilogy, and then also with Tony Hawk 1 and 2, that was released to pretty much universal acclaim, including winning video game awards. Regardless, all of that sort of activity, Activision Blizzard made a decision to merge all of the team into Blizzard itself, and then the team itself are going to solely focus on Blizzard IPs. Now, there's probably a lot like more of a backstory here as well, because there was reporting from Bloomberg where, and it's really strange. I had to read all about it, but basically Blizzard itself, started with what was now regarded as Team One, but that was with, the World of Warcraft series, Warcraft, and then StarCraft. Then they sort of did a deal with a studio at the time that ended up turning into Blizzard North, which works under the Diablo. But they've got these teams that internally they refer to as Team 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a Classics team. And essentially this Classics team that has associations with Team 1 had dropped the ball on a lot of remakes recently, including Warcraft 3 Reforged, which still to this day has the worst Metacritic rating for Blizzard. So it very much seems like Activision's a bit of sick of the situation as how it's going with Team 1 in the classic game division. And given that they already have a studio internally that does insanely good ports, it seems like they're going to take that team and then move them on to something like a Diablo 2 and do a remake of that. That sort of seems to be the word from Bloomberg and other outlets. Swinny, what do you think of this news? It's pretty interesting.
It is interesting, and it's certainly not Activision's first rodeo doing something like this. You just have to look at the list of studios that they've acquired and then essentially dissolved. Studios very closely associated with the franchises that Vicarious Visions has worked on, like Guitar Hero and Tony Hawk. So Neversoft, they acquired and dissolved them. Red Octane, they acquired and dissolved them, and there's countless others. I find it a little strange in the sense that it's coming off the back of two huge releases that were very critically acclaimed. But I don't know if it changes much. I'm just wondering, okay, who is going to... I don't know what other kind of Activision IP could get that treatment next, and would that also be them working on it because it makes sense? But then it's like, well, it's not Blizzard IP anymore. As in, if they're only working on Blizzard stuff, then...
Diablo 1 on Switch. Oh, please, if you're listening, Activision.
So, chances are they could always just restructure people into certain teams for those projects, within the business itself. But I just hope that, from all reports, it doesn't seem like there's been any layoffs, but there's always going to be someone affected or impacted, hopefully not in a negative way. So that's my hope, is that just no one loses their job out of this.
Well, that's already happened. So not on the Vicarious Vision component. So they've almost like been, from all the reporting and all the people inside going out to reporters as well, it seems like a bit of a lift and shift exercise for them. So they'll stay where they are in Albany, New York, but they'll go straight into Blizzard itself. The head of the studio, Jen O'Neill, will just report to the president of Blizzard. But what happened was, when I was saying about Team 1 inside of Blizzard, which is amazing because, essentially Team 1 was Blizzard. Like that, it's kind of a weird thing where they've grown out and developed Team 4, which does Overwatch, and what is it, Team 3 or 5, I think it is, which is Diablo. Now that Team 1 essentially almost has been dissolved. So there was all the Team 1 folk have pretty much been told they need to find other jobs. And that's why you've seen recently at Blizzard some of the senior people leaving. It's mostly the ones who are running Team 1 and the Classic team. And they've moved on to other things. So they've gone into other parts of Blizzard itself, maybe other parts of Activision. So that's probably where the pain has been felt. But I kind of agree with your points, Winnie. It's like, I mean, it's not like Crash Bandicoot's a small IP, man. It's like, maybe it's just the fact that what else is there to do from an Activision point of view?
It was Toys for Bob did Crash 4, didn't they?
Yes.
So maybe they're just thinking then there's crossover. Toys for Bob are kind of maybe gonna handle the kind of stuff that Vicarious Visions would have had in the past. But the crazy thing is, so I was watching a bit of an interview with the founders who left in 2016 from Vicarious Visions, and just the over 100 games in such a short amount of time. Like they were so prolific. Like you just look at, sure, a lot of it's port work, but like a lot of those are ground up ports. Yeah,
it's ground up really hard, yeah.
But it's like games that they're not using any code because as we talked about Tony Hawk 2, they're recreating a game from scratch.
Yes.
I mean, there's a couple of game developers, Intergod and I. We know,
hey,
we know how difficult it is to do these things.
I'm tracking badly on that. I think I'll hit all my other New Year's Eve things. My New Year's resolutions, but yeah, not that one.
I haven't coded really properly since uni, so
like I'm a huge believer in the whole saying, let the baker bake, and the port work stuff. I don't know why people ever classify it's not as real game dev. Of course it is, and it's a real difficult specialty. It's like very hard because you got these folk who are prolific in now very ancient technology in the grand scheme of things for gaming. There was a really cool article about Bluepoint when they were taking Demon's Souls and how they had to take the PS3 engine and get it running on the PS5. But it's literal code. It's like one-for-one code. It's not like their recreation of the code. And then they built another engine on top of it to interact with it to bring you all the quality of life features. So
you make a faithful remake.
Yeah, and I think that's a standard that people expect now. It's like when you get these ports, and it happened with Warcraft, right? When you get these ports where they're just not to the level of standard you'd expect, people, are just not happy with it, which is, fine and fair, I guess.
This is the studio that got given the challenge of putting Guitar Hero on the Nintendo DS.
And
they made it work. They made it work.
I wish I bought that. I regret not buying that.
I had it. I don't know where it is now. That was really good.
Oh, you had the Onzilla version?
Yeah, I had the one with the little tiny pad.
Yeah. It's so cool. Yeah, that's sick.
I hope they get to work on... I think the one game that I've got some of the fondest memories of is the original Diablo. And the only other version other than PC that I can remember is the PlayStation 1 version. So it works in consoles, obviously. It worked back in the day really, really well. And it even had couch co-op, which was really cool. But it'd be awesome on the Switch. I always thought, man, that's like a perfect game for the Switch. It just ports so well.
I just had this funny vision of when you're like, I hope they get to work on it. I thought you were going to say like Guitar Hero Diablo or something. Where it's
that'll be alright. Loop. That had some cool music.
It's a loop or something like that.
Well, I don't think it's going to happen, especially the fact that they're only going to work on Blizzard stuff. But yeah, as it says in the Bloomberg article, it appears that they're working on Diablo 2, which I think would be awesome if they do a cleaned up version of Diablo 2.
That'd be cool. With some quality of life improvements.
Well, in the style that they're doing it, which is just maintain the physics, the engine, like exactly how the game plays. The cow assassination thing that people used to do to grind that game. That would be awesome. And if that was on all platforms, Switch included. Because I feel like Diablo 2 would be a really good Switch game.
Oh, it'd be awesome.
Yeah. So
the last thing that I would say on that one is the only other rumor that I heard is when they disbanded one of the teams, the only person that was left was Juan from Mexico.
Okay.
So it was basically Team 1.
Team 1.
That was left.
you idiot. All right. It has been a big week in gaming, so let's move on to the next story.
My